From racing remote-controlled cars in England to driving Formula One cars on famous tracks across the world, Lewis Hamilton's rise to the summit of F1 is a fairy tale story. As a young kart racer, Hamilton dreamed of racing for McLaren in Formula One. Now, 20 years on from when he made his F1 debut, this unbelievably talented man from Stevenage has exceeded his dream, becoming a Formula One legend and one of the most successful personalities in the history of motorsports. Born on the 7th of January 1985, Lewis Hamilton had always been fascinated by cars as a kid, but certainly not the type of fast cars he drives today. At the age of 5, he was gifted a remote control car by his father, Anthony Hamilton, and within a few months, young Hamilton had become so good at handling this toy that he competed against adults in the British Radio Car Association Championship and narrowly finished second. 1 Christmas later, Hamilton received 2 presents from his father, a go-kart and a promise to support his racing ambitions as long as young Hamilton remained dedicated to his schoolwork. Anthony was a man of small means at the time, meaning he'd have to work different jobs, sometimes as a double glazing salesman or dishwasher, to support his son's racing career. But he didn't mind at all. As long as Hamilton kept his end of the bargain, Anthony was ready to go to the ends of the earth to fulfill his promise. Officially, Hamilton started karting at the age of 8 in 1993, and by the time he turned 10, he had become the youngest driver to win the British Cadet Karting Championship. His fame was rising quickly, and so was his luck. During the Autosport Awards that year, young Hamilton had a chance meeting with McLaren Formula One team boss Ron Dennis, and he uttered not more than 19 words. "Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. I won the British Championship, and one day I want to be racing your cars." Impressed by Hamilton's daring courage at such a young age, Dennis wrote a 10-word reply which read, "Phone me in 9 years, we'll sort something out then." In the end, it was Ron Dennis who phoned Hamilton in 1998, about 5 years earlier than he had predicted. The contract offer from Dennis saw Lewis Hamilton join the McLaren development program. But here's the kicker. It also included an option of a future Formula One seat if things turned out well. And with that arrangement, Hamilton would become the youngest driver at the time to secure a deal that resulted in a Formula One drive. Beyond the recognition from Ron Dennis and the McLaren team, Hamilton also earned the approval of Michael Schumacher, one of the best racers at the time and indeed one of the best drivers to ever sit behind the wheel of a Formula One car. "He's a quality driver, very strong and only 16, Schumacher said. "If he keeps this up, I'm sure he'll reach F1. It's something special to see a kid of his age out on the circuit. He's got the right racing mentality." Between 1998 and 2000, Hamilton won the European and World Karting Championships. 1 year later, he abandoned karting and started racing in the British Formula Renault Winter Series, where he achieved tremendous success. Next up for the tenacious British driver was Formula 3. Initially, Hamilton struggled to cope with the step up to Formula 3, a punctured tyre ruined his first race, and the next race wasn't any better, as the British driver was left hospitalised after crashing with teammate Tor Graves. Hamilton made a remarkable comeback, finishing 5th for the Manor team at the 2004 Formula 3 Euro Series. That same year, he tested for McLaren at Silverstone, teasing the home fans with some quality driving. Ahead of the 2005 season, Lewis Hamilton teamed up with ASM, the reigning Formula 3 Euro Series champions. The partnership was incredibly dominant, with Hamilton winning 15 of the 20 total rounds to win the title, ahead of Adrian Sutil, Lucas de Grassi, Frank Pereira and Sebastian Vettel. More impressively, the Briton had 13 poles and 10 fastest laps on his way to winning the title. Capping off an amazing 2005, Hamilton won the Marlboro Masters of Formula 3 at Zandvoort and was ranked 24th in the Autosports list of the top 50 drivers of 2005. With that, Hamilton drew the curtain on his Formula 3 career and moved up to the GP2 series. Compared to his exploits in Formula 3, Lewis Hamilton was less dominant in GP2, but he did just about enough to win the title, beating Nelson Piquet Jr. and Alexander Prema. Some highlights of this championship include an inspiring drive on his home track Silverstone, where he passed 2 cars at the notorious Beckett's Corner. At Istanbul, the British driver shocked everyone on the grid with a sensational drive that saw him go from 18th to finish in 2nd place. As Hamilton wound down his GP2 career, the universe was already preparing his next destination. Juan Pablo Montoya dumped F1 for NASCAR, and Kimi Raikkonen joined Ferrari, meaning an empty seat was open at McLaren, the same team that Hamilton tested with back in 2004. After months of rumours, McLaren officially confirmed that Hamilton was joining the team in November 2006. From racing remote-controlled cars, his dream of racing in the F1 was about to come true. Courtesy of his move to McLaren, Hamilton became the first and, until this moment, the only black driver to get a full-time drive in Formula 1. For his debut season, Lewis Hamilton was paired with Fernando Alonso, the reigning world champion at the time. So everyone expected him to be the second driver, but the British racer was keen to prove them wrong. Hamilton's F1 career got off to an impressive start as he finished third in his debut race. 6 races later, at the Canadian Grand Prix, he claimed his first victory in the sport. The Briton remained consistent throughout the season, breaking all sorts of records as he finished second in the Drivers' Championship, just 1 point behind Kimi Raikkonen. Hamilton's 9 consecutive podium finishes, 4 race wins and 109 points remains a record for a rookie driver. However, he didn't seem to get along too well with Fernando Alonso. There were constant reports of rifts between both drivers, and by the end of the season, Alonso had had enough. The Spaniard left McLaren by mutual consent to join Renault, paving the way for Lewis Hamilton to become the team's first choice driver. Hamilton put himself amongst the title contenders for the 2008 season, winning 5 races and then claiming 10 podium finishes. But he still had it all to do in the last race in Brazil, which turned out to be one of the most dramatic grand finales in the history of Formula 1. It was a two-way fight between Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa, with many twists and permutations. Going into the last race, Hamilton held a 5-point lead over Massa, but given that the event was taking place in his home country, the Brazilian was well placed to win the race. If that happened, Hamilton needed to finish no lower than 5th place to clinch the title. On race day, Felipe Massa raced into a comfortable lead, and Hamilton hovered between 4th and 5th. But as the sky started to pour in lap 63, Vettel jumped into 5th, meaning Hamilton was now 6th. As Massa crossed the finish line, the home crowd erupted with cheers and celebration, thinking their homeboy had clinched the title. And they were right. At that moment, Hamilton was still stuck in 6th place, but there was one more twist left in the race. With the contest drawing to a close, Toyota's Timo Glock suddenly lost pace after failing to switch tyres. Hamilton took full advantage of this opportunity as he passed Glock to finish 5th. It wasn't the perfect race, but it was just about good enough for Hamilton to win the Drivers' Championship 1 point ahead of Felipe Massa. Following his title win with McLaren, Hamilton had some decent outings for the team. However, the partnership was unable to win another title. In 2013, Hamilton left McLaren to join Mercedes, a decision he'd be forever grateful for. The Briton's first season with the Silver Arrows wasn't very encouraging. He won just 1 race and finished 4th in the standings at the end of the 2013 F1 season. Going into the 2014 season, Formula 1 entered the hybrid era as changes were introduced to reduce the carbon footprint of F1 cars. Turbocharged V6 engines featuring hybrid energy recovery systems were brought in to replace the roaring V8 engines. The kinetic energy system, KERS, was also replaced by the Energy Recovery System, ERS, which helped to generate more energy from the heat produced by F1 cars. Mercedes mastered these technologies quicker and better than every other team on the grid, and with a fully firing Lewis Hamilton behind the wheel, there was no stopping them. Mercedes completely dominated the grid, winning 16 out of the 19 races on the calendar. 11 of those were won by Hamilton, as he won the second driver's title of his career. The British racer couldn't contain his joy. "This is the greatest day of my life," Hamilton declared as he steered his car towards the finish line in the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi. Lewis Hamilton won a 3rd driver's title in 2015, and he could have won a 4th in 2016, but his teammate and childhood friend Nico Rosberg beat him to it. In 2017, Hamilton returned to winning ways, clinching the title ahead of 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. And from then on, it was game over for the rest of the grid. Hamilton went on to win the next 3 F1 seasons. However, his last title win in 2020 was quite special, given that it was his 6th driver's title with Mercedes and the 7th of his career. This makes him the only other driver, aside from Michael Schumacher, to have won 7 world titles. Ultimately, the Hamilton-Mercedes combination became the most successful team-driver partnership in F1 history, and it's all thanks to Hamilton's impeccable driving skills and the technological advantage that Mercedes had over teams during the hybrid era. Deservedly, the team won every single Constructors' Championship between 2014 and 2021, but their era of dominance was bound to end at some point. After the 2021 season, the FIA introduced aerodynamic changes, ushering in the ground effect generation of cars currently active in F1 today. Originally introduced in the 1970s and banned in the early 1980s, this concept basically involves using the floor of the car to create more downforce, and like most teams on the grid, Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton have struggled to adapt to it. Following the 2022 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Hamilton complained bitterly about the awkward bouncing of the car and how it made him uncomfortable throughout the race. At the end of the season, Hamilton finished 6th, 2 places behind George Russell, who was driving in his first season for Mercedes. Understandably, the 7-time world champion was left frustrated. The frustration got to Toto Wolff as well. Ahead of the 2023 season, the Mercedes team boss accused other team bosses of playing a dangerous game because he believed they were cutting corners to deal with the porpoising issues without considering the health and safety of the drivers. There were tangible improvements in the 2023 season as Hamilton finished 3rd behind Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, but the British driver still wasn't satisfied. He was particularly annoyed by the fact that the team was ignoring his complaints about the car. "Last year, there were things I told them. I said the issues that are with the car," Hamilton told BBC Radio 5. "I've driven in so many cars in my life. I know what a car needs. I know what a car doesn't need. I think it's really about accountability. It's about owning up and saying, yeah, you know what, we didn't listen to you, it's not where it needs to be, and we've got to work." Well, with every race, the love between Mercedes and Hamilton seems to be fading into thin air, and eventually, the situation came to a head. Following months of speculation, Lewis Hamilton announced he would join Ferrari in 2025. Many have described this move as the biggest driver switch in F1 history, and you can understand why. When you have the most successful driver in F1 joining the most successful team in the sport, magical things can surely happen. For Hamilton, there's no doubt that he has his eye on that elusive 8th world title, and he must believe he has a good chance of winning it at Ferrari. Ultimately, that would see him surpass Michael Schumacher as the driver with the most F1 titles. But even if that doesn't happen, the significance of this move is such that by the time Lewis Hamilton retires, he will have an iconic career epilogue that F1 drivers will dream of for generations to come. Now, to keep amazing F1 stories like this one coming, please like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time for your Formula Fix.